Hello everyone, my name is Akal and I am a somatic therapist as well as an astrological counselor. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about the work I do, you can check out my website, which I have posted down below the video. Also down below the video is vaultoftheheavens.com, which is where you can go to get your specific nakshatras. You want to look at the moon, the sun, and the ascendant, specifically with the moon probably being the most important of them. Get a little glare. It doesn't really help. Anyway, so Uttara Phalguni, that is what we're going to talk about today. This nakshatra can actually contrast. It's similar to the previous nakshatras, obviously, because we're sharing, the fundamental energies are very basically the same. How, in that there's tamasic energy at its base level and activity on the secondary level. And what does that mean? That means these folks, Magha, Puvra Phalguni, and Uttara Phalguni, are all here to function on the material plane. They're here to realize themselves. The ego is here to realize itself on the material plane through positive, proactive activity, Rajasic. Now, what's expressed outwardly, what's projected out into the world is different, though. With Magha, what was expressed out in the world was more activity. With Puvra Phalguni, what was expressed out into the world was tamasic, meaning the movement towards density, those things that will bring you into more density. So we're talking about children, procreation, material wealth, sex, etc. Now we get sattva, sattvic energy. That means neutral, objectivity, meditation. So that leads me into the word that describes this, I guess the energetic impulse here, which is moksha, which is the movement towards liberation. So you're starting to see people of a little bit more of a spiritual nature here. And when I go into the padas, this will make sense. There's a movement between contraction and expansion that happens here. And it's the movement through life, this expansive and contracting energy that we all kind of experience. The expansion, represented by Jupiter, will, again, bring us towards those things that are inspiring. Those things like religion and spirituality and philosophy, things that inspire contemplation, and again, the movement towards spiritual things. Now, Saturn brings you to contraction. It could throw at you pain, fear, and suffering. Now, equally is spiritualizing because it forces growth. When I get to the padas, it'll make more sense. So what are the energies here, the planetary energies that are ruling this sign? And that's how I'm going to approach, I've been approaching all these videos, is we're looking at how the energies, the planetary energies intertwine. So this is ruled by the sun. So the sun, I think it's really interesting. If you look at the gunas, again, the fundamental energies of all existence, of which Uttara Phalguni has a preponderance of this proactive energy in the movement towards clarity. So what's the sun do? The sun brings, essentially, it turns night into day. That which you couldn't see, it shines on and illuminates. Make sense? So overall, this is within Leo. So the sun energy is very prominent here. And it's also ruled by the sun, so you have more sun. So how do we look at the sun? So I like to think of the sun as the vitality or the life force that's moving through us. And it's what we express outwardly. So meaning it's energy in motion, Rajasic, expressed outwardly. Again, what they want to express outwardly is we want to bring something into clarity, something into realization. And so to manifest something physically is to bring something into clarity, right? So if something is in your mind, it's vague. It's vague. It's a fantasy. It's a thought. When you build it, you create it. What ends up happening is you bring it into manifestation. It takes on a physical form. And that is a clarity. So And that's very much how expression is. You could say it's verbal expression, it could be acting, it could be art, it could be anything like that. And so these are words that are very much apply to this nakshatra. Again, it's about creativity, it's about art, it's about those sorts of things. Some of the other words I saw were work, rest, balance. You know, again, the symbol here is a cot. And it's I believe the back legs of the cot now. And so what it has to do with like the tendency with these individuals is to rest, but also to take initiative and to act out. And if they're not acting out in this lifetime, there's going to be some bitterness. That's another word that could be associated here. Bitterness, cruel. That's another word. And the cruelty and the bitterness and them being harsh, these are all words that basically end up happening for people who are not fulfilling, I guess, they're not fulfilling what their destiny is in some ways. Again, that destiny is about proactive action and bringing about something into manifestation. So now how do the padas now play into this? So we've got the 4 padas, and the one thing we need to keep in mind about the 4 padas is that if you were born in one of these divisions within this nakshatra, it basically means that there's a planet that's ruling it, and it means that there's an emphasis of that energy here. So the emphasis of that energy doesn't mean that the other padas don't apply. This is the life path. Jupiter, Saturn, Saturn, Jupiter. That's the life path. Expansion and contraction, basically. Now, if you're born in Pada 1, you just have an emphasis of Sagittarius, Jupiter. So what's Sagittarius, Jupiter? And the word I found on the internet was ethical. And I was like, why ethical? And Sagittarius is really blunt. It's honest. It's a very honest sign. Hence probably the use of the word ethical. Now, I also like to think that if you were born into Pada 1, there's going to be an emphasis of, I guess, the desire to move towards things that are very high-minded. Abstraction could be part of this here. So this is out the Phalgunis. This is definitely the more spiritually inclined of the Phalgunis, in my opinion, because of the presence of Jupiter and Saturn playing out over the course of one's lifetime. So again, first pada, Sagittarius Jupiter, is an emphasis. And again, this emphasis is expansiveness. Think about those things, high ideals, high-mindedness. You're going to get an extra boost here. Pada 2, Saturn. Now, this is Saturn as it relates to Capricorn. So the word I found was practical. Why practical? Well, Saturn, again, if you look at what Saturn represents, a lot of the attributes of Saturn tend to be represented by the 10th house. So we're talking about career, stature, your status or stature in society. Again, it's about how you, the individual, fit into the collective in terms of your work life and your status. So you're going to get a little bit of an extra bump of practicality here, which is nice. Again, you have all this expressiveness, and again, the tendency to move between wanting to relax and to express. So this is a good placement in terms of people bringing about the essence of the sun, which is to bring something into manifestation. Pada 3. Now we're talking about Saturn as it relates to Aquarius. So we're going to get a bit more detachment here, objectivity and detachment. Now Saturn as it relates to Aquarius, we're starting to look at not necessarily how one fits into the structure of society and the constructs that man creates. It's more about how do we change those constructs. So it's about an evolutionary aspect here. So we're seeing service is the word I found. Well, we serve what? We serve our community. You're going to see a little more of a high ideal here. So it's the service of one's social group. How can I be of service to my social group, my community? How can I bring about change within that community and that social group? So that's pot of 3. You're going to get a bit more of that sort of, I guess, revolutionary character. Pot of 4, Jupiter again. We're talking about Pisces though. Pisces Jupiter is very different than Jupiter as it relates to Sagittarius, in my opinion. All of a sudden I'm seeing the movement away from sort of, and faith is a word that gets applied to both of these, but I think it's in a slightly different way. I feel like Jupiter as it relates to Sagittarius is about faith kind of through high learning. So philosophy and religion and all these different things. And it's about learning these things and having high ideals and high-mindedness and abstraction. And then eventually you come to realize faith. Now, Pisces, I feel like the faith is kind of built in. It's sort of on autopilot here. Faith is very much built in. Jupiter, as it relates to Pisces, to me is more about mysticism. So we're going to get a strong spiritual impulse with the individuals born in the 4th pada. And it says perspective was the word I found. I guess, in a way, perspective makes sense because Pisces has a kind of, detachment's not the right word, but the ability to have certain malleable perspective. And it's emotional. But again, it's this malleability, the ability to see something one way and then see it another way. So again, it's a flexible mind. And so flexible emotions, feeling one way, then feeling another. So again, there's this like swimming kind of dynamic here. But again, to think about the words associated with the 4th pada, think about faith. What is faith? Faith is a wonderful word, and it's hard as hell to get to the point where you have it. Faith isn't your religion, right? You can gain faith through religion. You're going to see religion over here. Faith here, as it doesn't relate to religion at all. Faith here could relate to philosophy, but here it doesn't. It's related to God. That's it. The mission of Pisces is the sort of faith that I will be taken care of, that I will be guided intuitively through life. It's the surrender of one's ego, the surrender of one's needing to accomplish and attach to something. It's like, I will be guided, and that's how it goes. So that's what happens if you have an emphasis of pot of 4, is you're going to have a more mystical kind of approach to life. It's the best way to say it. So with all that said, hopefully you have a little more clarity about Uttara Phalguni, and I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you.